Uncertainty is one of the few guarantees in life, yet it is also one of the greatest sources of fear. We often hesitate, delay decisions, or avoid opportunities simply because we cannot predict the outcome. The human mind naturally seeks security, patterns, and reassurance, but growth rarely happens inside the boundaries of certainty. When you decide to move forward despite not knowing exactly what will happen, you step into a higher level of personal power. Confidence in uncertainty does not mean ignoring risks or pretending fear does not exist. It means acknowledging doubt while choosing not to be controlled by it. Inspired by the timeless teachings of Dr. Joseph Murphy, we begin to understand that much of our hesitation is rooted in subconscious beliefs formed over time. If you believe that uncertainty leads to failure, your mind will search for reasons to hold you back. If you believe that uncertainty is simply a space of possibility, your perspective shifts and new options become visible. The difference lies in how you train your inner dialogue. Instead of asking, "What if this goes wrong?" you learn to ask, "What if this works out better than I expect?" That subtle shift in language begins to recondition the subconscious mind. True self-trust develops when you repeatedly prove to yourself that you can handle whatever comes next. It is not about guaranteeing success. It is about building resilience. Every time you take action without complete clarity and survive the experience, your confidence strengthens. Over time, you begin to realize that uncertainty is not the enemy, avoidance is. When you avoid decisions out of fear, you reinforce the belief that you are incapable. When you act with courage, even in small ways, you reinforce the belief that you are resourceful and adaptable. Practical exercises can help anchor this mindset. Visualization, for example, allows you to mentally rehearse calm and confident action before stepping into the unknown. Affirmations rooted in belief, such as "I trust myself to handle any outcome," gradually reshape subconscious patterns. Reflection also plays a powerful role. When you look back at past challenges that once felt overwhelming but are now behind you, you gather evidence of your strength. That evidence becomes the foundation of unshakable inner trust. The truth is, you do not need certainty to move forward. You need belief in your ability to respond, adjust, and grow. Confidence in uncertainty is ultimately a decision. It is a commitment to trust your inner guidance rather than wait for perfect conditions. When you embrace this mindset, ambiguity transforms from something threatening into something empowering. You begin to see the unknown not as a dark void, but as open space filled with possibility, growth, and unexpected opportunity. Developing confidence in uncertainty requires deliberate mental training, because the mind will naturally drift toward worst-case scenarios if left unmanaged. Fear often disguises itself as logic, presenting endless reasons to wait, postpone, or retreat. However, real growth begins when you understand that certainty is rarely a prerequisite for success. Instead of demanding guarantees, you begin strengthening your internal foundation. This shift starts with awareness. You observe your thoughts without immediately believing them. When doubt arises, you pause and question its validity rather than accepting it as truth. Inspired by the mindset principles taught by Dr. Joseph Murphy, you recognize that your subconscious mind absorbs repeated thoughts and turns them into expectations. If you constantly rehearse fear, you train yourself to anticipate failure. If you repeatedly affirm capability and resilience, you prepare yourself for constructive outcomes. This does not mean ignoring potential challenges. It means refusing to let imagined obstacles define your identity. Confidence grows when you act in alignment with your values rather than your fears. Even small acts of courage create momentum. Making a difficult phone call, sharing an idea, applying for an opportunity, or setting a boundary may feel uncomfortable, but each action reinforces the belief that you can navigate discomfort. Over time, the discomfort loses its intensity because you no longer interpret it as danger. You begin to see it as evidence of expansion. Trusting yourself in uncertain moments also requires emotional regulation. When anxiety surfaces, grounding techniques such as steady breathing, mindful observation, and deliberate pauses help calm the nervous system. A regulated mind makes clearer decisions. Instead of reacting impulsively, you respond thoughtfully. This distinction is powerful. Reaction is driven by fear. Response is guided by intention. As you practice responding rather than reacting, your sense of self-control increases. Another essential element of self-trust is accepting that mistakes are part of progress. Many people hesitate because they equate uncertainty with the possibility of failure and failure with personal inadequacy. In reality, setbacks are feedback mechanisms that refine judgment and sharpen awareness. When you detach your self-worth from outcomes, you free yourself to experiment, adapt, and improve. Confidence is not the absence of mistakes. It is the willingness to learn from them without collapsing into self-doubt. Gradually, you begin to internalize a powerful realization. No matter what happens, you possess the ability to adjust. That adaptability is your true security. External circumstances may shift unexpectedly, but your capacity to think, learn, and evolve remains constant. When you anchor your confidence in that inner capability rather than in predictable results, uncertainty loses its power to intimidate you. You move forward with steady determination, understanding that clarity often appears after action, not before it. In this way, uncertainty becomes a training ground for self-discovery, strengthening not only your decision-making skills, but also your belief in your own resilience and inner strength. As you continue strengthening your confidence in uncertain situations, you begin to notice a profound internal shift. You no longer seek permission from circumstances to believe in yourself. Instead of waiting for reassurance from others, you cultivate validation from within. This transformation is subtle but powerful. It changes how you approach decisions, challenges, and opportunities. Rather than asking whether you are guaranteed success, you ask whether the choice aligns with your growth and values. That alignment becomes your compass. Inspired by the teachings associated with Dr. Joseph Murphy, you understand that the subconscious mind responds to dominant beliefs, not temporary emotions. When you consistently affirm your capability, your mind begins to generate solutions instead of obstacles. This internal conditioning does not eliminate uncertainty, but it changes your relationship with it. You start to view unknown outcomes as neutral rather than threatening. In that neutrality, creativity expands. When fear no longer consumes your mental energy, you gain clarity. You begin thinking strategically instead of defensively. This clarity allows you to prepare wisely without becoming paralyzed by overanalysis. Preparation is constructive, rumination is destructive. Learning the difference between the two is essential. Preparation focuses on what you can control, such as effort, skill development, and mindset. Rumination fixates on hypothetical disasters that may never occur. By redirecting your attention to productive action, you reclaim authority over your thoughts. Confidence also deepens when you build evidence of reliability within yourself. Keeping promises, even small ones, strengthens your self-image. If you commit to practicing a skill, maintaining a routine, or completing a task, and you follow through, you send a message to your subconscious that you are dependable. Over time, this internal consistency forms a stable foundation. You trust yourself because you have proven your reliability through action. This is not arrogance. It is earned self-assurance. Additionally, embracing uncertainty teaches patience. Outcomes often unfold in stages rather than instant results. When you detach from rigid timelines, you reduce unnecessary pressure. Patience allows space for growth that is gradual but sustainable. In that space, resilience takes root. You learn that temporary discomfort does not define your destiny. Instead of interpreting obstacles as signs to quit, you interpret them as invitations to refine your approach. This mindset prevents discouragement from taking control. Ultimately, confidence in uncertainty becomes less about controlling the future and more about mastering your inner world. You recognize that peace does not come from predicting every possibility, but from trusting your ability to navigate whatever arises. The unknown no longer feels like a threat looming ahead. It feels like open terrain waiting to be explored. With each step forward, you reinforce the truth that you are capable of adapting, learning, and evolving. That realization becomes your anchor, steady and unshaken, regardless of how unpredictable the journey may be.